Hey everyone, happy summer. I'm Dr. Bria Spree. I'm a chiropractor in St. Paul Chiropractic, in St. Paul, of course. We like to do fun events like this. So this one is called School's Out, Summer's In. You can see Libby's artistic talents and Maggie's creativity is in our workshop too. We discussed what do we want to hear this summer and asked a few of our practice members. And the biggest thing is, how do you eat in the summer? How do you eat on the go? Like what's good food, running out of recipe ideas, where are the local farmers markets. And so everything in this talk is catered towards what does our summer food look like, what's ripe, and where do we go from here. So sit back, relax, enjoy. We're only spending about 20 minutes together. You can always reach out if you have questions on it. We have a lot of handouts in the office based on this talk specifically, and then I'll give you some websites and things to refer to too. The first thing that we're going to talk about and kind of the premises of our day today is the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 list. If you've never heard of this before, this is the Environmental Workers Group, or EWG.org. They are an awesome resource. They even have, sorry you hear ice maker going in the background. We like our nice cold ice water in the summer. EWG.org, they're an awesome resource. They also have a phone app. Like you can go to a grocery store, if the food has a barcode, you can scan your food. And they've also added a lot of hair products and laundry detergents and so on that you can see your level of toxicity. But every single year they do this massive study on herbicides, insecticides, and pesticides that are sprayed on our foods, and to tell us what do we need to buy organic and what is not so crucial to do so. And the list is highly refutable. It's really, really important to follow. So we also made cute little sheets like this that are folded in half that you can add to your keychain, or you can always save the list to your phone too, of what to buy in the grocery store and go organic and spend a little more money on it and what doesn't matter. But every single year in the past, at least 10 years, strawberries is at the very, very top of the list. It is sprayed with the most, and then it's also tested of can we wash it off or not? How much is actually ingested in our food? And regardless of how much we talk about this, as adults, we have fully developed immune systems. We have fully developed digestive tract. The only time you'd be an exception to this would be if you have an autoimmune disease or something related to leaky gut issues. A lot of times if you have that, you already know it. But if you don't, you just think of yourself as someone that's really sensitive to food. That might be you too. But kids are the most vulnerable to this. They are not fully developed yet. We know that in many ways, shapes, and forms, because I have two little ones constantly running around me. But that they are most vulnerable to all these herbicides, pesticides, and insecticides as well. Some of them have been banned. They're on a list that we always talk about, the FDA approved or not approved. A common one people have heard of is DDP. Like almost everyone knows, oh my gosh, DDP was a big deal. We know that it's now illegal. Excuse me, there we go. But the thing is, they just take one product, revamp it, bring it through the process again, and then change it into a different product because our food is still being sprayed. It's still a lot of toxins on that can't get washed off. So we get this list, this Dirty Dozen list. A lot of times you can think of something that doesn't have a peel, something that's not as well protected, like it has pores on it, like a strawberry or a raspberry, or like your leafy greens, where it soaks right into the fruit or vegetable itself. And so we have that list for you if you didn't get it right by watching this. Here's how they make the Dirty Dozen list. So you can read these stats yourself as well. So a lot of the slides, I won't be reading them fully, but there's so many pesticides or insecticides on the list. Excuse me, sorry about that. It makes the list for good reasons. And so 209 pesticides found in total just on these 12 products is a really big deal. So now they've changed the name of a lot of things. So I'm going to say some that you may not have heard of, just 3 categories. There's neonicotinoids, which is the new style of DDP. Of course, it's not the same product, but it's the insecticide. It's really effective, of course, for insecticides and for keeping the plant healthy, quote unquote, but it's also linked to a ton of fertility issues in men and women, birth defects, and there's a whole list of things related to what it's turning into, but a lot to do with the birth and development of our early years in utero and out. Another one is, sorry, these are always funny words, so I'm reading them to make sure I say them correctly. Chlormequat, or QUAT in caps, abbreviation. This itself is a plant growth regulator. For example, the most common thing it's used on is really tall grains. And these are the things I'm mentioning that are not on the Dirty Dozen list too. So obviously grain is not a fruit or a vegetable, but still along the same category of what our food is sprayed in. So if you knew or saw a really free range style grown grain, the stalk is ginormous. It's taller than most people. It's 6, 7, 8, 9 feet tall. So for many reasons, they have developed this product, this plant growth regulator. So the stalk is much smaller. They can grow a lot more grain, a lot more crop, regardless of feelings on being able to have mass products so that there's enough food in the world for all the people, that famine is not as much of a concern. It also comes with some of its consequences in the other direction too, and the harm and the carcinogen it's creating in the body, and a lot of the cancer for both the farmers but also anyone digesting it. That things like celiac disease or gluten intolerance are skyrocketing. They weren't heard of in the past, versus now how many people have them. It's over 30% of the population that's sensitive to gluten in some way, shape, or form, or deals with leaky gut syndrome. And it's products like this that it's happening to. So avoiding the Dirty Dozen, avoiding GMO as much as possible, and really knowing where your food is sourced. Avoiding, we'll get into this a little bit more in just a minute, but avoiding most processed foods, such as, there goes the ice, such as baked goods, anything that has a really long shelf life. You want to know what's put in it, and the additives and the grains, and then especially gluten-free fillers. So the more natural you can buy, the better, of course. But if you are going to buy something with a shelf life, you want to make sure it's not one of those products with those chemicals. And the last one is paraquat. Again, that QUAT. It is a pesticide, but it can damage the lining of your mouth, your esophagus, and your stomach. Things that are really common that I hear every day in practice are how many people get indigestion or heartburn or reflux, or they have a different taste with their saliva to certain foods, so they crave more carbs and less flavors with their palates because of this as well. So paying attention to these things on your food and knowing where your food is sourced is huge, and really the crux of our talk today. There are different foods that really don't need to be bought organic. You really don't need to pay attention to this stuff. Sometimes the rule of thumb, if you don't have your list and you don't have internet access on your phone and you're just in a pinch trying to buy groceries, think if it has a shell or a peel, it's usually more protected, is the rule of thumb. But this list is really strict to, for example, the top two, sweet corn and avocados. Less than 2% of the product ever tested in the US shows any pesticides at all. So it's really these two products that you never ever have to buy organic. You can if you want to, of course, but it's so unnecessary. Things like watermelon, it's mostly water, so you would think that would be something towards the Dirty Dozen or not make the Clean 15 list. But again, that shell, that peel, that thickness really protects it. And one that always surprises me is cabbage always makes the list too. So here's how EWG, or Environmental Workers Group, tests which ones make the Clean 15 list. It's always better to have 15 good ones than 15 bad ones, and the opposite way around too. But really low percentage of those pesticides. Again, they're testing herbicides, insecticides, but they're really putting pesticides in that one category. So no matter what at the grocery store, following the Dirty Dozen list is most crucial. But if you go to your farmer's market, you're not buying the same products that you would buy in the grocery store. So farmer's market is really what we always we always encourage, and I'll come back to those slides in a minute. Here, it's a lot easier to find a local farmer's market or a stand in the summer than it is any other time of year. So the first place to look, which I think is the easiest in this area, is just stpaulfarmersmarket.com. Click on their calendar and just show how to do it. So I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but here I click on the date that I'm looking at, I click more, and I click the one that I want to see, and it pops up. Okay, here on this day, there are 4 options. Here's the time they're at, the location they're at, the name of them, everything that you could ever learn about it. So it's really easy, really fun to use this app. If you're not in the St. Paul area or not in the surrounding suburbs, or you're just on the go and you're somewhere else in Minnesota, let's say you go up to your cabin or to a friend's house, minnesotagrown.com. And here you search their directory, and there's a bunch of options of things you can do in Minnesota. And then you click on this one right here, farmers markets, and you type in your zip code or your city, whichever one you want to do it by, and it'll pull up tons in the area. You say what mile radius you want to travel in and all their products. The really cool thing about this one is it shows pictures of the events. So it'll show you a bunch of stands that are already there. It'll sometimes tell you who's registered to be a vendor there. It's just very easily accessible. It tells you their hours and everything too. So those are my favorite ways to go. And the other component of it is a lot of people tell me, okay, I go to the farmers markets. Sometimes I don't even always know what the thing that they're growing is, which you can talk to the farmer themselves there. But what do I do with the recipe, and how do I have time to use all these fresh ingredients? And it might sound silly on this video, but the reality is we don't have time to make these 2-hour dinners every single night. And so, here's another stand that Maggie found recently. This is in Egan, right off of Cliff Road. So there's stands like this all over, but there's always lots and lots that you can go through. And so I pulled up my favorite 3. You can get recipes anywhere now, but my favorite 3 that are really easily accessible. So this top one here is Kaylin's Kitchen. She has a tab. You can search for it, or you can find it really easily. 90 healthy, no heat lunches for work. Of course, it doesn't have to be for work, but we're talking about bringing the kids from gymnastics to baseball practice to running over to a friend's house, and you spend all this time in the car, and then all of a sudden, either you have to run home to eat, or you have to stop at the local restaurant, or even if you go to the grocery store, sometimes that's not easy either. So if you are a tiny, tiny bit of a planner, these are super easy recipes to follow, and they're delicious. The rule of thumb is the more color in your food, the more nutrients you're getting, and this is the best time of the year to get it. Next one, I printed off some recipes that are in the office if you like printed recipes, and this is called the wholesomealicious.com. Kind of funny to say, but it tells you all about her bio, Amy, and then special diets that she follows. But strictly, I try to stick to things like Paleolithic, which is grain-free, sugar-free, dairy-free. There's a Nom Nom Paleo down here too, Nom Nom Paleo, and quick meal ideas, and those ones are really easy. There's other options. So if you just type in a diet, it's not that you're dieting with your food. It's just that you might get cleaner recipes. And so they're not going to tell you to use heavy creams and canned mushroom soup and, just the thicker, would you say, like hearty meals that we really just don't need, our body never needs, but also that we're not really craving in the summer. We want things that make us feel light and energetic, and they're fueling us and giving us calories, which is in every other language stands for energy. So we're getting energy to burn throughout the day with our colorful foods, and also really easy to make. We also had an example in the office where we just did watermelon, cucumber, some lime juice. If you want to spice it up, you can put a little chili powder in it and sea salt, and it was like the most delicious watermelon salad ever. So really fun ways about that here too. But there's one thing that we all talk about is that we want to eat healthy, and we know we should follow the organic list when we can, and we try to get in these fruits and vegetables and all the things that we say to ourselves, like, I do well most of the time. And maybe you do. Most people think that they're healthy and are probably healthy 40 to 50% of the time. But the goal is 70 to 85% of that time. The 85 to 100 is harder to reach than getting up to 50% of success either way. A lot of studies show that. So try to get to the 70 to 85% of the time. You do a great job. Any more than that, you're just overachieving, which good for you. Go for it. We'll support you all the way. But you don't have to be perfect to be great. But I want to emphasize how dangerous our food really has gotten, even our good, healthy food. So I'm going to talk about this new. You might have heard of it. I don't often talk about things that seem to turn political or often come up in the news because they're usually a one bias standard. But this that came out, a peel, got a lot of attention. You might have heard of it because essentially what it is it's a coating that's sprayed on our food, organic and non-organic foods. And what it is to preserve the food a lot longer. So again, if we're talking about famine, this can play a role in that conversation. I'm going to leave that out of the conversation for today, for the purpose of this talk. And the reason I'm leaving it out is because there's so many ways that we can still avoid this product, and I'll tell you how unhealthy it is for you. And so a peel, which they also renamed EpiPeel because it's gotten so much attention, EpiPeel, EpiPeel, is because it was founded by Bill Gates, Oprah invested, Katy Perry invested, and you can Google it. It's really easy to find. Or my favorite, instead of Google, which is paid advertising, DuckDuckGo.com is also a really good resource to search things and to see a lot of different posts and articles about things. And so that's not so biased as well. So DuckDuckGo, or you can on Google and see who funded this. But this is a $170 million investment on our food. And what it is it's a food additive, which is, by the way, not tested by what's in the product by FDA because it keeps and preserves our food longer. And I'm sorry, I didn't even finish saying what a peel is. What it is it keeps our food from oxygenating, which is a fancy way of saying more oxygen coming in so that the food starts to go from food and nutrients and it starts to, why can't I think of the word? It starts to decompose. So once the food starts to decompose, think of like you have a banana that's yellow, or green, and it turns yellow. That means it's ripe. It oxygenates or it oxidizes, and then it starts to become brown. And that's when we know it's decomposing. And I'm sorry, my video glitched there, so hopefully that makes sense. We're talking about how quickly a food decomposes and slowing that process to prevent food from spoiling. So that's why this product came out. And it's gotten a lot of hype and a lot of controversy. And so that's why we're diving into it today. So it's because it got so much hype, it has its own website now, and it's advertised as, and you can look right on the website, as a plant-based oil that's man-made, and it's there to protect our food. And they compare it right on the site to things like breast milk that are natural, that have fats in them. So monoglyceride, diglyceride. A more common one that you've probably heard of is triglycerides. Everyone talks about lower your triglycerides. They're talking about your cholesterol, right? So these are different types of fats. Well, our entire body is made up of fat. And every cell has fat on the outside of it. That's the cell membrane. And what that does is it allows nutrients to go into the cell, but also, just as importantly, it allows the cell to detox itself. So it allows toxins to come out. And what happens is when we have triglycerides, aka trans fats, that it blocks those receptors. So then instead of going in and out of the cell and the body ridding of these fats, these trans fats or triglycerides, then it stays in our body. And that's how we build up adipose tissue. Again, another way of saying fat. It's how we build up plaque in our arteries, and a lot of cardiovascular injuries that come from that. And I can dive more into that with you individually if that doesn't really make sense, but some of those things you have all heard before. And so when we talk about, yes, breast milk is mostly made up of fat, and we talk about, yes, our body's mostly made up of fat and our brain is 90% fat too, it really depends on the type of fat that we have. So this appeal, that what it's made, it's the same type of fat that our body already has, but instead of helping, it's really blocking that. They've also tested it. They won't really say what the oil base is. For example, it could be grapeseed, it could be rapeseed, which is what canola oil and vegetable oil are made out of. It could be olive oil, it could be, unlikely, sunflower oil. Well, each one of these oils, which is a totally different talk in itself, it really matters which type of those saccharides it is, which type of fat, mono, di, or triglycerides, to see how well the body absorbs it or doesn't recognize it as a foreign body. So I'm going to digress for a moment. Because we don't know exactly everything with appeal, then we can't distill down all of this. But for most of what it says is that it's from grapeseed oil. This is an okay seed. Not everybody's body does really well with it. But what happens is there's not enough of the particle in the seed to actually get the oil that we need to put in our product. So here's how it's made. And I'm going on the very, very brief description of it. So it starts as a seed. It needs to be cleaned. So this means heavy bleaching of the seeds. Get the seed as clean as possible. It's ground down, if you can see this diagram, and then it's pressed. We're trying to get the oil out of the seed. So I'm grinding it first and then pressing it down. Now we have to extract the stuff out of it that we want. So we put a solvent or a solution with it. That creates the oil and the alkali. So this is how we get the product that we want. Now we want those two things to separate. Just like you'll see the next one, oil and water, we want those to separate properly. So first we centrifuge it. You've ever heard of centrifuging your blood? It changes plasma with red blood cells. That's how they test things. So we're centrifuging the oil. Then it comes oil and water, and we centrifuge again. And now we have to clean it. So let's see if I can move my own video here. Clean as possible and become refined into the exact product we want. Now, at this stage with the oils that's used for appeal, it's not yet at the point that they want it. So they clean it one last time, make it really heavily and chemically processed to get the seed byproduct that we're looking for. And it can't be used as a cooking oil. So instead, now they're coating your food with it. So the most common question that Appeal got is, can you wash it off? And their answer is yes, you can wash. It's right on their website on frequently asked questions. Yes, you can wash off some of it, but you can't wash out all of it, or it wouldn't actually slow down the oxidation process. So it's a little scary that you now have a product that has been tested to have 5 heavy metals in the product itself, which some of it gets from this process of how it's made. So these 5 heavy metals that I've shown are palladium, arsenic, lead, cadmium, and mercury. Now they call this, let's see, I'm going to read this perfectly so I don't say it incorrectly. They talk about our maximum daily exposure limits for residue in the mixture. And although they are much lower than our maximum daily limit, our ppms, they are still in the product, which means they're still foreign to the body. And then lastly, there are 2 other heavy chemicals in there that are not heavy metals, but one of them is toluene, which is in gasoline. And it's one of the main products in creating dynamite. So now this is on our food. It cannot be washed off with our cleaners that we use on our fruits and vegetables. We even have the Norwex cloth that's specifically for getting all the dirt off our organic stuff. But no matter what, you can't be cleaning off, so you're digesting it. It's most commonly used on apples. What a surprise, right? Apples appeal. Just kidding. Bill Gates. No, I'm just kidding. I'll stop. But so and it sticks on the peel and it does go into the food as well. So there's a couple ways around it the best that we can. We can peel our food. Most of our nutrients is in the peel of the things that we eat, such as kiwis, which is on the Clean 15 list, but apples and strawberries are on the top, and you're not going to peel those. Or you're not going to peel strawberries or blueberries. And so we're ingesting it. We're ingesting these chemicals. It can't be washed off either. So and the fact that is they're doing it on organic ones too. So here's the way around it is you can call your local grocers or ask them if they're there. There's a couple brands that have vowed to never use it. For example, most co-ops refuse to take in this product at all. Also, Driscoll, hopefully I'm saying it correctly, is Driscoll. That's a brand of fruits that you see like the strawberry box, and it has that yellow brand there with the green writing, the Driscoll. Hopefully that's how the company is said. But anyway, they vowed to never ever use the product or ever have it in storage. And then your local farmers markets, they're never going to use this product either. So knowing what's in your food, knowing where you shop. I'm a huge Costco shopper. Our family does it all the time, and we absolutely love it. But there's some produce there that I wouldn't even eat because of that exact thing. So be careful what you eat. It really does matter, even when you're trying really hard. Stick to the things you know. Stick to the farmers markets, the local foods, the homegrown foods if you grow your own seeds. Stick to the co-ops. I haven't heard back from Trader Joe's yet. We love Trader Joe's, and they're sometimes against banning these things. But once I hear from them, I'll let you all know. And follow those easy recipes and have fun with your food. Last tip before I get into the grilling, and then we're done for the day. Last tip is that really easy way to get more water down in the summer. It's so easily get dehydrated is you can grow mint in your backyard. Make sure it's encased, not with the rest of your garden. It'll take over like a weed through the rest of your garden. You can add mint to your water. You can add oil drops. You can add fresh fruit. Change it up. Just make it really refreshing so you get more water down. And if you do eat any of these bad oils or toxins, that you are flushing them out with your water. And then lastly, I love grilling. So I'm going to go through these tips really fast and then I'm going to let you go, but things to watch out for. When you're grilling, a lot of people use spray-on oils. Make sure you're staying away from the canola and the vegetable oils and you're sticking to your seed and nut-based oils. So this would be avocado spray oil. Costco makes a great avocado spray. It's really affordable, super easy. There's so many. There's sesame seed or hazelnut oil. The list goes on and on, but you want to avoid vegetable and canola. Ketchup and barbecue sauce is absolutely loaded with corn syrup and sugar. So read your labels. It's really, really easy to make your own. But if you're not that kind of person, it's also easy to find ones that use simple sugar or don't use any sugar at all. So turn your thing around. Don't read the advertisement on the front. Turn your food around. Read what's in the ingredients and it'll tell you right there. Avoid tinfoil at all costs. Tinfoil has some aluminum in it. It's really small amounts, but it has a bunch of other chemicals too. So you don't want to heat up your food really hot in that tinfoil. Use some of those grill trays. They work really great too. There's also cages that they make that you can put your vegetables in now and you still get that same flavoring. We often have buns with everything, so try not to have preservative-filled breads. Look at those additives. Those are a really big deal. You don't want to be eating trans fats while you're trying to be healthy. Clean sides. So try to avoid the baked beans that are loaded with sugar. Try to avoid the chips for sides and do a fruit salad and do a homemade potato salad or eggs or anything more veggies that's going to avoid getting all that extra sugar down. And then last thing, I'm sorry you can't read any of this writing here. It's a bad slide. But the last thing I have on here that says powdered mixes. So for your dips or your guacamole, try not to use the powdered mix. Just make your own seasoning. You can find recipes everywhere, especially the sources that I gave you. And also it's super, super quick and easy to just throw a couple spices together, look them up if it's not your area of expertise, and go from there. It'll be awesome. Your food will taste better. It will actually change the palate in your mouth. You're going to enjoy and love your summer food. It'll carry over to the fall, and you'll get that summer bod that you've always been looking for. So I know this went on a little long and I went on a few tangents. There's so much more to discuss. If you have any questions, please reach out. I hope you enjoyed the video, and happy summer. Enjoy. Let us know if you go anywhere really fun. Thanks so much. Have a great day.